I'm Jacob Courtwright, and this is The Locker Room. What's up, everyone? Welcome into The Locker Room, and a massive week here at The Locker Room indeed. This Thursday, 7:30 Eastern, The Locker Room is going live for the entire first round of the NFL Draft, our first annual draft night here at The Locker Room. It's going to be so much fun. I got a bunch of friends coming along with me. We're going to break down the entire first round, go pick by pick. You will be able to watch the draft along with us. We're going to commentate on it, and we're starting 30 minutes early so we can talk pre-draft moves and shenanigans that we think might happen. So join us 7:30 Eastern live on YouTube. More information will be coming out tomorrow. That way you can make sure that you're fully prepared and invite a friend. It's going to be a lot of fun. Before you get started, the only way you're going to be able to find all of the information you need is by following The Locker Room on our social media. The Locker Room Podcast 615 on Instagram, The Locker Room Host Jacob on Facebook, TLR with Jacob on Twitter, and The Locker Room 22 on TikTok. This episode is brought to you by FNX Fitness. Go to fnxfit.com. That is fnxfit.com for all of your gym needs. Listen, I took a nasty spill this week. Hurt my foot pretty bad, tore some ligaments, but that does not stop me from getting in the gym and using FNX products to help me recover faster. They have recoveries, they have supplements, they have clothing, everything, all made here in the beautiful USA. So make sure you hop on over to FNX Fitness and use your promo code TLRHOST. That is TLRHOST for 15% off your order. This weekend, the world went back to normal. We got at least a little bit of normalcy when it comes to the sports world. And we're starting off with UFC 261, one of the best fight cards I've ever been able to witness. And it's not necessarily because of the dynamic fight matchups, not necessarily because of the title fights that were on the line, or necessarily who was even fighting. It was the performances that were put on by these fighters. It was the arena filled with 15,000 screaming fans. It was the arena with 15,000 people all chanting F Jake Paul. It was the celebrities in attendance. It was the normalcy of being back in a full arena and enjoying fully the spectacle of sports. From the beginning, Dana White has been the first person to get sports back on TV, the first person to get back into competition, and he is now, besides the Texas Rangers, which had 40,000 people, he is the first person and has been the first person to push the agenda of moving forward, get things back to normal. And he's the first person that's allowed 15,000 people into a building to watch a sporting event. And he did a great job. Here's what I love, and this is not getting political because it's not a political show, and I have told you this. This is a free will podcast, right? I believe in free will. I believe that in America, we have a God-given right of our own free will. You have the free will to do right. You have the free will to do bad. You have the free will to do whatever the hell you want. Of course, I would encourage that everybody has the free will and does use their free will to do nothing but good. But the free will of being able to not have to wear a mask and or wear a mask. Something is bad, something is good. I'm indifferent. I don't think that a mask does jack all, but that's just me, right? But the beautiful part that Dana White brings to the UFC is he says, listen, no masks or wear a mask. Do what you want. Have your own free will and just come enjoy my sporting event. I love that because he is giving you, the people, back your power, which is, listen, if I want to go to an event and there's going to be 17,000 people there with no masks and I don't feel safe, then guess what? Don't go to that event. If you want to go to that event and you just take on the assumption that, listen, I'm going to be around 14,000 people, 15,000 people without masks on, then you take on that own responsibility, then do that. And that's what I love about Dana White. He comes out and he's so blunt about it. He's like, this isn't about politics. This is about your free will. And people had the free will to wear a mask, to not wear a mask. And guess what? It was beautiful harmony. They could not have done a better job, not only as fans, but as a whole event, of bringing unity back to the U.S. citizens. There was people with masks. There was people without masks. I would dare say a lot more people without masks. And it is Florida, and I'm pretty sure that they forgot that the pandemic has hit them already. They probably don't even know that a pandemic has happened. I mean, what is it? Miami has closed down like once, but you know, that's Florida for you. But people were able to just sit there and enjoy a sporting event, mask, no mask. He was allowed to have 15,000 people. Now, he didn't pack it, 40,000 people deep and go too crazy. 15,000 people, fans were able to get back to it. It was amazing. Amazing. Congratulations, Dana White, for doing what so many people have not dared to do, which is bring fans back into a stadium and make them feel like they can be fans again. And man, these fans delivered. From the first fight of the undercard all the way to the main event, when there was 5,000 people in the building for the start of the prelims, all the way to when there was 15,000 people at the very end, those fans were loud. And the fights did not disappoint. That's the best part. The fights were insane. From the very first fight, when these two girls threw haymakers, and when I say haymakers, guys, I don't care how big and strong you are, these girls scared the living hell out of me. I mean, they're just Superman punching each other in the face, throwing absolute deathly bombs over here, and you have 5,000 people that are so loud it was unreal. But it was so cool to see fans back into arena. It was so cool to see people have their own free will to enjoy what they want to enjoy. That's what I've been preaching this whole time. If you want to get vaccinated, if you want to do this, if you want to do that, if you want to, good. If you don't want to, fine. We're in America. You're free. And Dana White does such a good job of making people live out their free will. You're an American. This isn't about Republican or Democrat. This isn't about agenda. You're an American. You have free will. Enjoy your free will. I mean, that's enough on that stuff, but it's just beautiful to see. It's beautiful to see someone who's not coming at it from a political angle. He's just coming at it from a sensible angle. Like, listen, my business needs to get back open. We want fans to start enjoying life again, and he did a great job of that. Now to the fights, like I said, from the very first fight to the last fight of the night, the main event, absolute stunner of a card. I mean, from the very first fight, they were upping the ante from knockouts to submissions to, it just kept building and building and building and building. Now, we did see some very gruesome injuries, which was very sad to see. You never want to see that. Of course, Chris Weidman, we all know, had the famous leg snap in half, which we don't ever want to see. We saw Anderson Silva do it, and I almost threw up. I thought this one was even way worse because he stepped back on that foot, and just the thought of it makes me want to throw up while talking to you all. But these fighters, and Dana White even talked about how he had a fighter meeting. They stepped up to the plate and they delivered a show for the ages. I have seen much better fights. I've seen much, much, much better fights. But as a fight card as a whole, this is one of the best fight cards I've ever seen. And I know some of you are like, dude, Conor McGregor, John Jones, Francis Ngannou, these guys aren't even on this card. How can you say it's one of the best fight cards you've ever seen? Khabib's retired. He wasn't there. Guys, if you're not a casual fight fan and you're a fight fan, I know you're going to agree with me. Because this was incredible. They kept upping the ante. Now, barring the injury stuff, because we never want to see that, we had one fight where a guy completely destroyed his knee. We had another fight where a guy completely snapped his leg in half. Oh, gosh, can't even talk about it. Get the injuries aside, we had amazing fights. We never want to see injuries, of course, that aside, because I know there's going to be somebody out there, listen, being in the podcast business, there's always going to be somebody saying that I'm pushing an agenda for I love the injuries and stuff like that. I don't know. Injuries aside. We had one of the most amazing, inspirational fights of the entire night when Rose just, gave one of the most beautiful speeches I've ever heard, standing there going, I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best, then walks out there and knocks out not only the champion, but knocks out somebody that is, 21-1, I think, in her entire career. Somebody who is a monster in the octagon. I mean, if you want to hear something inspirational, if you want to be moved to tears like Joe Rogan, like it seemed like everybody else was, watch the Weili and the Rose fight. And the Rose fight. Incredible. Rose walks out there saying how she's the best, she's the best, she's the best. She fakes a low kick, knocks her out with the high kick. Amazing. Then we got Valentina Shevchenko, who just dominated. Not even close. Dominated. I mean, for those of you who didn't watch it, I'm not even joking. Every fight was a technical knockout or an actual knockout. The light heavyweight, Anthony Smith. Jimmy Crute got the knee injury, which was super sad. You never want to see that. Anthony Smith was dominating up to that point. It would have been a great fight. Uriah Hall, he won, of course, due to the awful leg injury of Chris Weidman, which we never, ever, 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 ever want to see, but that would have been a fantastic fight. So we go KO, TKO, TKO. Then we go Valentina Shevchenko, dominates, TKO. Then we go to the strawweight division. Weili Chang and then Rose, and there's a TKO. Rose just knocks her out and steals the belt. That's the best part. I love when a new champion is crowned. It's so much fun. Then we go to Kamaru Usman, Jorge Masvidal. Now, a lot of you talking how Jorge Masvidal was going to come out and dominate. I did not think Usman was in that big of trouble whatsoever. Now I do believe Jorge Masvidal is a very creative fighter. He's a very tough guy. But Usman is just on another level of greatness right now. I mean, for him to grab the hand, pull it down, he fakes the jab, and this is the crazy part. He fakes the jab, so, of course, Kamaru Usman faced the jab. All that jab is that he was going to grab his blocking hand so he could go straight in for the counter punch. Knocks out Jorge Masvidal, which with one of the nastiest knockouts we've seen in the UFC, one of the greatest, most iconic pictures in history as well. Usman had one with the knockout to Ben Askren where he's kneeing him in the face, and now, Masvidal had one when he knocked out Ben Askren in the face with the knee, and now Kamaru Usman got one on Masvidal with one of the hardest punches we've ever seen. And I'm not going to lie, I got to brag here. I went, I think it was 12-2 on the entire night. So I almost went 14-0 for the entire fight card. It was a very good night for the locker room. My main card, I'm not going to lie, guys, I had some money down on this, all right? All right, I dabble in some gambling. The main fight card, 5-0, baby. 5-0. 5-0, baby! That's right. Now, my co-host for Puncher's Chance, Mr. Stephen Hines, which we wish him a speedy recovery. Him and his entire family have had the flu all week. Not corona, guys, just the flu. So he's had 3 puking babies, a puking wife, and then himself puking all week. So we couldn't shoot a Puncher's Chance this week. But my co-host Steve Hines did inevitably pick the exact same things that I did, because I think when he saw my picks, he was like, man, this Jacob kid knows what he's talking about. So we both went 5-0, so I didn't get a leg up on him in our rivalry. But 5-0 on the night. Won a little cash at the other night. Super, super fun. But as a whole, one of the best fight cards I've ever been a part of. One of the best, I wasn't a part of it, but, ever had the chance to watch. One of the best fight cards I've ever seen, and I don't know if it was the energy of the crowd. The crowd was incredible, and it looked like these fans were like, we're making a statement that we want to be back in these arenas. We want to be back to normalcy. And you saw, and like I said, we can do it safely. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. I don't care what you do. Get vaccinated. We're seeing the death toll drop. We're seeing, I just want free will to come back, because it was so beautiful to see it. It was so beautiful to see it. It was everybody on both sides of the spectrum, whether it was a mask wearer, non-mask wearer, vaccinated, non-vaccinated, Republican, Democrat. It doesn't fudging matter. It was everybody coming together, which is what America's about, coming together and just enjoying the night. Chanting F Jake Paul, I think, is just the cherry on top for me. Jake Paul is messing with people he doesn't need to be messing with anymore. You saw Daniel Cormier walk over there, and at the second you get DC to start chirping at you, it's very hard to get under DC's skin. The only person that I've ever seen get under DC's skin was John Jones. And we all know how that turned out. But DC went over to Jake Paul and told him he better shut his mouth, right? Jake Paul's messing with people he don't want to be messing with. Now, will Jake Paul ever have the balls to actually fight a real fighter? No. He's going to keep doing these dumbass celebrity fights, which is fine. Make your money, kid. But don't start talking to real fighters, because you don't want to be talking to them. I made a TikTok earlier this week about Jake Paul, and it's crazy how much people hate this guy. I mean, I hate him, right? But I post this TikTok. It's only got 2,000 views and maybe 10 comments. And I come back 2 days later, and it's 27,000 views, and next thing you know, I've got over 80, 90 comments, and they're all, Jake Paul's a piece of crap, I hate Jake Paul, fight a real fighter. So, Jake Paul, it must be nice to be the biggest living trash bag in the entire world. I love it. I love it. I love it. The UFC did a hell of a job, and I can't express how excited I am that fans are back in an arena. America's finally coming back around to normalcy. We're starting to see people in stadiums, which is the way sports are meant to be performed and played in. It's so much better. So much better. The crowd was electric. The fight card was amazing. Congratulations to Dana White. And congratulations to the fans. You made your own decisions and went out there. I love it. I love it. I can't praise this night enough. Congratulations to the UFC. We're going back. The UFC at least is going back to Houston. It's going back to Vegas, to the Apex, but we're going back to Florida is what I'm hearing. I say we, guys, and my dad, oh, I didn't know you fought for the UFC. You know what I mean. When I say we, I'm talking about like the sports media, the fans. We're getting to go back to Florida. We're getting to have people back in the stadiums and enjoy fighting the way it's supposed to be fought. And I think we saw that play out through the fighters, the way they were dynamic and explosive. Amazing. So much fun. Congratulations, UFC. One of my favorite segments on the show has returned, and that is fan questions. And if you're sitting at home going, listen, how can I send in a fan question? Well, listen, the only way you can be a part of stuff like this is being a part of our social media. If you don't have social media, I've got an email as well. You can email me all day long, right? But fan questions is a segment that I like to throw up off and on. I don't want to do it too often because I want it to be special, guys. It's special. And it's basically you throw me your questions, I throw out my quickest answers possible. So I don't listen. Besides making sure that the questions are saved for my Instagram story so I can just read them, I don't spend a whole lot of time looking at them before. I vet through them a little bit just because I'm going to keep these people nameless, but there's some of my friends out there who think it's funny to send in some inappropriate questions, all right? Or questions that they know I already have answered that, they're just trying to rile me up. But I love fan questions, one of my favorite segments we do, and I think I like it because I can give you my opinion, and you're not there to have to rebuttal it on the microphone, so it's a lot of fun. I can just spew it out there, and then if you want to rebuttal back, you can just hit me up on social media. And we're going to do an argument day coming up soon, live on TikTok. It's going to be a lot of fun. More details to come. Listen, we have so much stuff going on, all right? So when I say stuff and you're probably like, dude, what the heck, man? Can we stay up to date here? I promise you a lot of this stuff is on the way. It's getting through a lot of these processes, which is a lot more difficult than you would think, right? But let's get into fan questions because you don't give a damn about the stuff I have to go through in order to get this thing on the air. Fan questions at question number 1. Who is my favorite to win the NBA championship right now? It's a very interesting question because 3 months ago I would have said the Los Angeles Lakers would run away with it, and that was without Andre Drummond. 3 weeks ago I would have said the Los Angeles Lakers, barring that Anthony Davis and LeBron James are 100% healthy, with the addition of Andre Drummond. I think Andre Drummond gives them a crazy dynamic that this team really needed, and that is a big man who can score but who can also defend the rim, which is the weakness of every team that's going to be in the NBA championship this year, right? Big guy presence, big guy rebounding. If you're relying on Blake Griffin to rebound the basketball for you, you're in a lot of trouble, okay? Or a washed-up DeAndre Jordan. But the big question is LeBron James going to be healthy? Is Anthony Davis going to be 100% healthy? And can the Lakers have enough games together to mesh? Same thing with the Brooklyn Nets. It's very hard for me to say the Brooklyn Nets are going to be NBA champions because they've had 7 or 8 games together. And that's just not enough, especially in the NBA. So it worries me for the Los Angeles Lakers and for the Brooklyn Nets. And a team like the Philadelphia 76ers, barring that they stay healthy, are a very interesting piece here for the NBA championship. Now listen, I'm going to pick the Los Angeles Lakers because I'm a ride or die LeBron guy. And we've never seen LeBron not come back from an injury and just ball out. So let's just say that the Los Angeles Lakers come back 100% healthy. They win it all. But I think the Brooklyn Nets, it's going to be very hard for them, barring that they haven't played together. But I think the 76ers are probably the most interesting piece in this whole equation. They've got a lot of pieces this time that can put a ball in the basket and can defend at a high level with Ben Simmons. So they are a very interesting piece. So we'll see what happens with that. Question number 2. What team is most likely to move up to try and get a quarterback in this draft? This is actually something I was going to talk about at the end of the show, but since that question is rolled out now, Let's roll it out there. This is something that I've been thinking very hard on. I don't think the Broncos are going to move off of Drew Lock just yet. So I'm pushing them out of this equation of moving up to get a quarterback. I think the New England Patriots, the Washington football team, or the WTFers as I call them, or the Chicago Bears are the three most likely teams to move up and try and pick a quarterback. If the Chicago Bears are ever going to stay relevant, if the Chicago Bears are ever going to dig themselves out of the grave that they put themselves in, they need to trade up to the 4th spot and take either Justin Fields, Trey Lance, or Mac Jones. I don't care. At this point, if I'm the Chicago Bears, you took a giant chance on Mitchell Trubisky, which flopped directly in your face, and Patrick Mahomes, future Hall of Famer, was taken after Trubisky, right? So you screwed up once. I think if I'm the Bears, I go ahead and take that chance. You've got a defense that can win now. You've got an offense that if you have a quarterback that can deliver an accurate football is pretty darn good. So if I'm the Chicago Bears, and especially with Julio Jones being in play, if I'm the Chicago Bears, I try and make Julio Jones, which we'll talk about. That's actually a fan question next, so we'll leave that to the side. But if I'm the Chicago Bears, I'm trading up. If I'm the New England Patriots, if I think that my guy is going to be there at 4, whether that's Trey Lance or Justin Fields, I'm moving up to get Trey Lance or Justin Fields if I'm the New England Patriots. Either one of those guys might be mediocre or fail on other teams, but with Bill Belichick in that system, not being asked to do way too much right off the bat, being able to sit behind a Cam Newton who's very similar to their play style. They have, of course, a lot better arms than Cam right now, especially. But New England Patriots make a lot of sense. And the Washington football team. Do they think that they have a guy that they think is their future? If that's the case, you get a quarterback like a Mac Jones, you get a quarterback like a Trey Lance or a Justin Fields, let them sit behind Fitzmagic for a year, let Fitzmagic ball out and do what he does, and let those young players grow. I am a big proponent of letting young quarterbacks sit and grow. Justin Herbert did wonders for him to sit the first, whatever it was, 5-6 games. I don't even think it was that much, but there's very few young quarterbacks that can come in and be dominant. Tua Tagovailoa is a very good example of he needed to sit an entire year. I thought that was a very dumb part on Brian Flores and moving Fitzmagic out of that spot. But, yeah, that's that answer to that question. Next question, which we already talked about, question number whatever it is, 3. Julio Jones. Do I think that Julio Jones gets traded? I do, because the Atlanta Falcons don't have enough cap space to keep what they have and to sign all of their new incoming rookies out of the draft. So unless they're going to just trade all their draft picks away and stack up for next year and just ride and die with what they have and, pick in the later rounds and get the super cheap guys, I think that's super dumb. Now, I do think it's smart for them to trade out of this spot and accumulate a bunch more draft picks, but that's another conversation for later on down the show. The Atlanta Falcons have got to get rid of at least one of their star players. I say they hold on to Matt Ryan, get rid of Julio Jones, and if Julio Jones is being sent anywhere, he's got to go to a contender in order for it to make sense. So Green Bay, if Kansas City or Tampa Bay gets him, I don't think I'll watch another down of football the rest of my life because that would be just one of the most unfair things in history. But Green Bay, I've heard Chicago. I think Indianapolis is probably the smartest fit for Julio. Move him out of the division, get him to a contender, make Carson Wentz have the best year of his entire career, which if we're Titans fans, we're not very happy about that, but that makes the most sense for Julio Jones. Conor McGregor or Dustin Poirier? Conor McGregor. Listen, I keep going for Conor McGregor, and he keeps disappointing me. Eventually, that's either going to stop, or I'm just going to have to continue to eat my words. Conor McGregor was landing significant strikes to Dustin Poirier in that last fight. Conor's problem, he didn't check the leg kick one time. We are seeing, especially on Instagram, it looks like we are seeing a much more humble and focused Conor McGregor, and a Conor McGregor that's switching it up to a different karate style, different southpaw styles. Like, we're seeing Conor McGregor mix things up, which is what he used to do when he was very dominant. He's focused on boxing way too long, and his striking is phenomenal. We saw him land massive shots on Dustin Poirier, but he needs to mix things up. He needs to be able to be coachable this time around, which from what we're seeing in his social media, which we all know that could be a giant front, it looks like he's being a lot more coachable. It looks like he's coming down to the earth and saying, listen, I need to learn how to grind again. I need to learn how to be hungry again. I need to learn how to be coachable again. It's not just about checking the leg kick. You can check a leg kick all day long and still get knocked out with a left hand. He needs to be coachable. He needs to break down his game and understand what he has to do from the roots all the way up to the very top. So I'm going to stick with Conor McGregor for this one, just for the simple fact that I just believe Conor McGregor is a different animal when he humbles himself and understands that there's a building process to being great and gets back to that building process. Next question. Will John Jones ever fight Francis Ngannou? I don't know. John Jones is a loose cannon. I love John Jones. I think he's the greatest fighter ever, but he's really starting to piss me off. Just fired his management team. There's talks that he wants like $30+ million to fight Francis Ngannou, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. If John Jones is as great as he says he is, he goes in there, knocks out Francis Ngannou, makes, whatever, $11-12 million from the pay-per-views and everything else. And then at that point, I would knock out Francis Ngannou, take the belt, tell Dana White to suck it, and then he has no leg to stand on. But as of right now, it looks like you're running away from Francis Ngannou, which, listen, one of the scariest human beings in the entire world right now. I would run away from Francis Ngannou. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me why John Jones is playing this big a hardball. I understand he wants a big payday. I understand this is his first fight in the heavyweight division, and he's fighting the scariest human on earth. But I don't know. He's really starting to frustrate me, so I don't know if this fight's ever going to happen. You would assume that it would, but nobody actually knows. We only got a few more here for you. Next question. Who is my favorite sports team in college? Ah, ha, ha, you're so funny. It's the mighty Oregon Ducks. Don't get me started, all right? Go Ducks. Last question. If you are the Tennessee Titans, who are you drafting and why? Well, of course, the Tennessee Titans have always needed a good standalone cornerback. If J.C. Horn is not available at our pick, I don't know that I'm sold on, Caleb Farley's a good one, or J.C. Horn are about the only two. Of course, Patrick Surtain II, I wouldn't be mad at either. But I don't think any of those guys are going to be available back at the Titans pick. So let's say that they aren't available and I can get some good cornerbacks later in the draft, especially in the second round. There's a couple guys out of Oregon, not going to lie, this isn't biased, that are very good. And so I think there's a lot of value in the cornerback position. I think wide receiver-wise, this is one of the more shallow classes we've had in a while. I'm going wide receiver here, and I'm going Rondale Moore or I'm going Elijah Moore. Either one of the Moores. Speed guys. I want somebody that can go alongside Brown and be a take the top off the defense kind of guy. The Tennessee Titans have never really had that. Adam Humphries was supposed to be our speed guy. Of course, he never panned out, and we all know how that ended up. So I would go get somebody like a Rondale Moore or Elijah Moore, somebody that can fly down the field, got speed, can open up the lanes, and get pressure off of Brown. A.J. Brown is your number one wide receiver, is one of the top 10 wide receivers in the entire NFL right now. We'll talk about that at a much later date. But I think A.J. Brown's a very special player, and if he has a speed guy to go alongside him, it will be a dynamic offense for these Tennessee Titans. Of course, when you have King Henry in the backfield, it's already ridiculous. But I love the addition of a speed wide receiver here. And that is fan questions for the next few episodes, right? We usually don't do this, but once every other month. So I appreciate your fan questions. Those are some very good questions. Don't hesitate to ever send in more questions. I'll answer them on my social medias. Sometimes I do that just for fun. And I always like the people that DM me. I had somebody else DM me last night and let me know who they thought would trade up and why and what player they would get. So it's always a lot of fun to converse. So I appreciate the fan questions. Now we've got to get into some draft conversation. I'm not going through the whole draft, but I'm going through my final QB rankings. I'm going to go through my final thoughts on top players in the draft and teams that I think might trade up. All right, so approaching draft night, my QB carousel has finally moved around just a little bit. I don't like to go out on a limb a lot of the times. I listen to a lot of what the media says. I do a lot of my own research as well, but the hard part is when the research is coming from the media people that are talking, you don't get a whole lot of research on your own. So I watch film, and I've dissected my top 5 QBs in the draft, and it has changed, except for number 1. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, I have talked about this time and time again. If there was ever such thing as a non-bustable player, it's Trevor Lawrence. Barring injury, Trevor Lawrence is going to be a great starting quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars, probably their franchise quarterback for years and years and years to come. I think he's going to be a very good fit along with new head coach Urban Meyer. So I think this is going to be a perfect fit Trevor Lawrence has the arm talent. He throws guys open the best in this entire draft. He's got the best size. He's got the best, I would say, when it comes to arm ability, I'm not talking about like arm strength or how far he can launch the ball, but he's got the most probably accurate arm in this entire draft. Is probably the best way to put it. Trevor Lawrence is my absolute lock at the number one quarterback position. Not going to move. I mean, he would have to snap both of his legs in half and be deemed unable to ever throw a football again before I'm even dropping him down to number 2. Like, Trevor Lawrence is the guy. At number 2, I'm moving off the Zach Wilson train, and I'll tell you why. So, I think Zach Wilson has the best arm in the draft. He is very Aaron Rodgers-like with how quick his release is and what a cannon this guy has for an arm. He can make some special throws. I'm worried that Zach Wilson has way too much pressure put on him way too early. I mentioned this, I had a conversation on an Instagram post the other day from another local podcast, and we were talking about how they put too much pressure on these young athletes to be great instantly. Zach Wilson is a guy who I think would benefit sitting behind a veteran QB for a year. Now, they're not going to do that because the NFL is all about win now and their own agenda, so they're going to, they listen to too much of what the media and everybody tells them they should do than what their gut feeling should be. Zach Wilson needs to sit behind a quarterback. Zach Wilson has the ability and has the talent to be a generational arm type of quarterback. This guy's got an arm that for days. Incredible. I think he's going to be overrun in his system over there in New York. And I could be wrong, but from what I see, out of a draft, if you have 5 quarterbacks, 2 of them are going to be great, 1 of them is going to be okay, and 2 of them are going to bust. That's just statistics. And I'm not too high on Zach Wilson right now. A guy that I am very high on is a guy that might shock a lot of people, and a guy that not a lot of people are talking about anymore until the last 2 days, and that's Trey Lance. Now, Trey Lance, I'm not going to say that he's going to go number 2 overall. This isn't the order I think they're going to get drafted. This is my quarterback hierarchy. A guy that I would build my franchise around. Number 1, Trevor Lawrence. Number 2, I'm going Trey Lance here. Hasn't played a lot of football. He's the best runner of the football in this entire group, but he also has a very, very, very special arm. And that's something to be said. He has the intangibles. He's very raw. And if he gets into the right system, if he gets to a New England, if he's able to get to a San Francisco and sit behind a Jimmy Garoppolo, if he gets to a place where he can sit behind a veteran QB and grow, this guy has all the intangibles to be a very special quarterback in the very near future. Plain and simple, from what I've watched from him, and there's not a whole lot of games, all right? I mean, he's played like 4 downs, it seems like. But this guy put up monster numbers, didn't play a whole lot of quarterback even in high school. This guy is a stud. I love what I've seen from him. He would be a great fit at San Francisco at 3 if Jimmy Garoppolo stays there for a year. I love that fit. If not, hell, throw him to a Chicago. I think he would do well instantly. I think he would take over for Andy Dalton halfway through the season, or take him to a New England. Let him sit behind Cam Newton. Let him be with one of the best offensive coordinators in the game, one of the best head coaches to ever do it, if not the best head coach, and let him grow. So, Trevor Lawrence, number 1. Trey Lance, good, could I say that any more obnoxiously? Trey Lance is my number 2 right now. Number 3, this one's difficult for me because I'm not high on Ohio State quarterbacks. And I'm still not. Justin Fields is not my top 3 guy. At number 3, I'd probably put Mac Jones. While I think Mac Jones' ceiling is basically already been hit, he, at the right system, will be a very good quarterback. I don't think he's going to be great. I don't think he's going to be special. He's going to be a very good quarterback. I wouldn't even put very good. He'll be a good quarterback. He's a good system quarterback that can deliver an accurate football. He's got a nice deep ball. Do I think Mac Jones is any kind of special? Do I think Mac Jones is the guy to lead you to a Super Bowl? I don't know. It depends on the situation that he goes to, right? If he ends up at San Francisco, I think that he could work very well with Kyle Shanahan. It's the kind of guy that he likes. But what I like from Mac Jones is he's a very steady quarterback. Steady on the throws, steady on just about everything. So while he's not special, he is very steady. And steady usually does pretty well in the NFL. Look at Derek Carr. Derek Carr is somebody that's very steady. Is he very special? I don't think so. I think Derek Carr is just a very steady quarterback. And I think Mac Jones, to the right situation, he is not a walk into a burning fire of an organization and lead them out of the depths of that dumpster fire. No. But I think he is a plug into a very right situation. He is go to Los, if he's a Raiders guy, like he's a very decent quarterback for a good situation. And I like Mac Jones for that simple reason. At number 4, this is where Justin Fields slides in for me. Now, I wrestled with the 3rd and 4th spot with Justin Fields. I don't have a lot of faith in Ohio State quarterbacks. Why? Because they pan out to do jack all. Dwayne Haskins, not a good quarterback. Cardale Jones, not in the league, played for the XFL last, and I think he's playing for the Canadian Football League now. Braxton Miller turned into a wide receiver. Like these kind of quarterbacks out of Ohio State, while they put up massive numbers, usually don't do well in the NFL, and I'm worried about Justin Fields. Justin Fields is the complete opposite of Mac Jones. A lot of special talent, a lot of upside, a lot of special ability, not very steady. When I say not very steady, that doesn't mean he's a bad quarterback. When I say not very steady, I mean somebody that he just wavers just a little bit. His deep ball is not my favorite. Usually underthrows guys, which is not what you want in the NFL. Doesn't throw guys open a whole lot of times, more so throws directly at a target. Not that he's not a good quarterback. That's not what I'm trying to say here. But he's got a lot of special ability, not a lot of steadiness, where Mac Jones is complete opposite. A lot of steady, not a lot of special ability. So the ceiling is very, very, very high for Justin Fields, and he could finally break that mold of Ohio State quarterbacks sucking complete crap in the NFL. He could finally break that mold. He is somebody you take your chance on. If you're Chicago, if you're New England, you slide up and take Justin Fields at whatever spot you can get him. If you're Carolina, I don't care that you just got Sam Darnold. Get rid of Sam Darnold and try out Justin Fields. Give Sam Darnold to Chicago. Give Sam Darnold to somebody else that wants just a good, steady quarterback. Take your chance on Justin Fields. He is a very, very, very good bet. I like Justin Fields, but like I said, him and Mac are very similar, but very opposite in what they can do. But I like him here at 4. And then, of course, at my number 5 spot, this is where Zach Wilson's going to slide in. So Zach Wilson went from my number 2 guy to my number 5 guy. Like I said, Zach Wilson has all the talent in the world. He has a special Aaron Rodgers-like arm with his quick release, with the accuracy that he throws his deep balls with the power that his arm has. I don't like when players get overhyped. They overhyped Zion Williamson last year, and while I think Zion Williamson is a fantastic player, and you can see what he's doing this year in the NFL, I hate when they do that to players because you're throwing too much on these young guys way too quick. Now you want them to go into the New York Jets. You want them to not only resurrect the entire franchise, but start winning games instantly. It's never going to happen. So for the simple fact that I'm worried where Zach Wilson's going to land, and I'm worried that Zach Wilson has not been prepared for that kind of pressure and that kind of leadership, and those kind of moments, I think it's going to take Zach Wilson a couple years to finally settle in. That's just me. I don't like the hype being built around him as he's arguably the best quarterback in this league. I think he arguably has the best arm in this entire draft. But I'm never going to pick him over Trevor Lawrence. Now, he's in a very similar boat as Justin Fields and Mac Jones for me. I think Mac Jones, Justin Fields, and Zach Wilson all have very high upside. Well, except for Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones has basically already hit his ceiling. But I think all have very unique things they can bring to an organization. It's just, are they going to go to the right organization? Can they deliver? And will the pressure be too much? I don't care where you went to college. I don't care if it's North Dakota State. I don't care if it's Clemson. I don't care if it's BYU. I don't care where you went to college. I don't think college has anything to do with it. I think can you mature quick enough in this game to not let the game eat you whole? So like I said, I'm worried that Zach Wilson has way too much pressure thrown on him, but he has the best arm in this draft. So there's a lot of upside for that. But that is my last QB rankings heading into Thursday night's draft. Now, teams that might move up in this draft, I mentioned this on my social media yesterday, like I've talked about, the Chicago Bears, the New England Patriots, the Washington football team, the Denver Broncos. Now, the Denver Broncos is going, I'm back and forth with it. Are the Denver Broncos so sold that they're going to take a quarterback? If that's the case, then they're definitely going to have to move up. There's a lot of rumors that Drew Lock is out of there and they want to move up and take a quarterback. If that's the case, then they have to move up to at least number 4. You know, San Francisco's not moving out of their 3rd spot. So they got to move up to number 4 in order to get their quarterback at least secure the fact that their quarterback's going to be there. Chicago, we've already talked about this. New England, Washington, any of these teams should move up in this draft. These are my most likely teams to move up in this draft. It's not rocket science here. I just talked about it. It makes complete sense for Chicago and New England to be the two most aggressive teams to move up in this draft. I think Washington can sit back another year. They're going to still suck enough to where they're going to get a high pick next year's draft. But past what they already have, unless Washington loves a certain player, if I'm Washington, I'm keeping what I have, and I'm not moving up too high to try and take a quarterback. But yeah, those are my top 5 QBs. Those are my top teams that I think might move up in this draft. And then finally, any draft surprises I think coming up. We are already seeing movement happen. We saw Orlando Brown be traded from the Ravens to the Kansas City Chiefs. It makes a lot of sense. The Chiefs have already got a proven guy. They're already ready to win now. So they got a proven lineman, so they didn't have to take a chance on somebody in the draft. And the Ravens got more, draft capital, which they also need. The Baltimore Ravens have a lot of needs. Even though it doesn't look like it, I think the Baltimore Ravens have a ton of offensive help that they're going to need in this draft in order to make that offense really hum like it should. Other than the few moves that we've seen, I don't think we're going to be seeing any more major movement or any other giant surprises before the actual draft night starts. So before Thursday, I don't think we're going to see any other movement. If Julio Jones does get traded and all that, it's probably going to happen post-draft anyways, probably somewhere around June. The only other plausible thing I can think of is the 49ers have come out and talked about how they're not guaranteeing anybody that's on the roster right now will be on the roster after this weekend of the draft. So, if that's the case, that's a very interesting statement. Does that mean they are moving off of Jimmy G, giving their new guy that they're going to bring in a full opportunity to start from the beginning and going to try and give Jimmy G to the Chicago Bears or to whoever else is looking for another quarterback? I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. I think the 49ers, the Dolphins, the Panthers, the Falcons, and the Broncos are the most likely teams to start moving around and making a little bit of noise. Teams that have some needs and could become a much better team instantly and a team that could win instantly, and teams that need to get rid of cap space and need to open up space so they can bring in new players, especially like the Falcons. But I don't think we're going to see any more crazy draft moves before the draft, But I do think that this draft is going to be very exciting. There are a lot of underrated players. Few of my underrated players, Micah Parsons, linebacker out of Penn State. Now listen, Micah Parsons is ranked as the best linebacker in this draft, but he's not being talked about as a game-changing player, which Micah Parsons is. So he's one of my standout players. I think Little out of Alabama, another very, very underrated player coming into this draft. And he is somebody that the Titans or a very savvy team could pick up in the later rounds, probably even the third round, fourth round-ish, and pick up a very good player. So Little out of Alabama, I think Micah Parsons is a bright spot coming out of this draft. Wide receiver-wise, I think that Rashad Bateman is a very, very under-talked about, underrated wide receiver. Also, Tony out of Florida. Now I'm not a giant fan of Tony. I think Tony in the right situation will be a very good quarterback. A very good wide receiver for a quarterback to have another weapon. So there's a few diamonds in the rough here in this draft. The defensive-wise, I think cornerbacks and safeties have the strongest potential. Moorhig out of TCU, one of the best safety prospects I've seen in a very, very long time. J.C. Horn not being talked about too much, but now all of a sudden, coming draft week, he's being talked about as a top 15 pick in this draft, which is somebody that I've been praising for a long time as J.C. Horn. And Caleb Farley, another very, very good pickup in this draft. So there's a lot of draft gems. We're going to talk a lot more of that come April 29th. So, April 29th, 7:30 Eastern, the Locker Room podcast on YouTube going live. That's how you're going to be able to watch it. It's going to be a lot, and I mean a lot of fun. So make sure you're joining us, 7:30 Eastern. That's the show. We're going to talk so much draft on Thursday, you're going to want to throw up. But join us. It's going to be a lot of fun, guys. I want to appreciate everybody for listening. Remember, if you like the show, if you have comments about the show, hey, shoot a DM to me. Hey, if you like us, share us with a friend. Spread the love. The more you share us, the more we can grow, and the more we all grow together. The Locker Room faithful, I want to thank you again. Once again, guys, I'm Jacob Courtwright. This is The Locker Room.